The scientific evidence linking fracking and earthquakes is on firmer ground than ever thanks to new data coming from SMU. On Tuesday, scientists from Southern Methodist University added to the growing body of research linking small earthquakes to oil and gas wastewater disposal. On the same day, Oklahoma's government announced that it would officially embrace that large body of scientific research and start figuring out how to deal with its growing earthquake problem. Now, there have been a number of studies linking strong correlations between fracking being done near fault lines and small-scale earthquakes, low-intensity earthquakes in that same area. This is just the most recent data drawn from the experience of Texas. If you're not familiar, by the way, with hydraulic fracturing, which we call fracking, it's the forced opening of fissures in subterranean rock by introducing liquid water at high pressure to draw gas and oil out, which I guess not surprisingly could have some effect on the ground that you're splitting. And when we say that Oklahoma is finally taking note of this, you should bear in mind that the rise in earthquakes in Oklahoma is so incredibly dramatic. Look at this chart. That seems suspicious, I think. That is not a lot of earthquakes all the way up until 2010 when fracking really took off, and then you see it skyrocketing from there. From something like 40 earthquakes a year to over 1,000 and then over 3,000 in just a couple of years ago. And so I'm glad that they're looking into this. I'll give it a
the
little
real seismic shift is that. Is that Oklahoma is listening to science.
Oklahoma,
you know,
yes.
As a state, as elected officials, decision makers in Oklahoma, not the ones usually given to paying attention to what scientists have to say. So that, to me, is the literally seismic shift.
Texas still resistant to science.
Yeah,
because they've got a good inertia of ignorance built up over the decades.
Well, they also aren't on a fault line apparently.
Yeah, Texas hasn't had as many problems perhaps, but they could in the future. So the data that I was just talking about that SMU has been working on, it does deal with Texas. It links a series of small earthquakes in Azil, Texas to oil and gas activity, specifically the process of injecting drilling wastewater underground. According to the research, the faults that shifted below Dallas-Fort Worth have not budged in hundreds of millions of years, but they did recently shift to produce those earthquakes. And it seems like the fact that they haven't moved for hundreds of millions of years, we've been fracking for 5 or 6 years, the fact that they've moved now does seem suspicious.
Right.
And the interesting addition that this research does over previous looks into the correlations between fracking and earthquakes. In this, quakes may be made more likely when workers extract gas and groundwater from one side of a fault line, then inject water back into the ground on the other side of the fault, which is a distinction that previous research had not actually made. Now, really fast, because the oil and gas industry is going to say that they're just finding spurious correlations. It's just a coincidence. Can we bring up the chart again of the increase in Oklahoma earthquakes? Because I want to be fair. Now, they say they can't prove definitively that that's what caused the earthquakes. They just say it's the most likely factor. So it looks like 2010 is when it really jumped off. And so I looked at some other stuff that happened in 2010 to see if I could figure it out. Let's see. We have Obamacare was passed in 2010. That could be it. Simon Cowell left American Idol. And Don't Ask, Don't Tell was repealed. Now, I think that Christians are probably going to point towards that last one.
Yeah,
it's causing
God
earthquakes.
is causing the earthquakes
yes,
because of that.
Perhaps not the
2010, Cenk Uygur given the 6 o'clock hour on MSNBC. So that was also a seismic shift.
Was that 2010?
I'm pretty sure.
All right.
But then why didn't the earthquakes go away shortly after?
And when it was taken away from
when it was taken away from him.
You'd think that the land would have calmed.
It's because there's a lot of gay sex really spiked after that.
Okay.
That's what
they saw so much of him on TV, they felt inspired to do it. But anyway, I mean, this is something that we see a lot of data coming out of Oklahoma, some out of Texas, but fracking is spreading across the country. It is popular for very good reason. It makes those companies a lot of money, but that doesn't mean it's good for both the earth and also for the communities around there. I mean, I'm sure we've all seen the videos on YouTube of people lighting on fire their tap water because it's so contaminated with these chemicals and the groundwater. Like, you can't inject huge amounts of these dangerous chemicals into the ground and expect that nothing is going to happen. And it looks like we have some good data on exactly what is going to happen.
So again, we don't have a government that really represents us, right? In theory, it does. So in Texas, the Texas Railroad Commission is the one who regulates oil and gas activity.
Yeah.
And they've been resistant to the pleas from seismologists about fracking causing. They've been resistant. In fact,
why would that be, Jimmy?
After this, I don't know. After this, the agency's chief seismologist, Craig Pearson, After the Tuesday study that talked about all this fracking causing earthquakes, he said that the study raises many questions with regards to its methodology. So he's questioning the study.
Those are the questions.
This study's got to be effed up somewhere because it says that the oil companies are doing something wrong. So that's messing up my data, and we got to get rid of that.
Yeah. Maybe the machines were jostled by the over 20 earthquakes per day Oklahoma is suffering from. That's a possibility I would look at.
That's probably a big problem.
That might be it.